Podcasting from deep within the bowels of government overreach in Chicago, Illinois, I'm your host, Eric Odom. This is the Liberty News Podcast.
My name is Eric Odom. I'm managing director for Liberty News Network, podcasting here for the first time ever. This is from the 17th floor in downtown Chicago, the belly of the beast, some might say. Very interested in getting into this podcast this year. I've been talking about it for about 6 weeks on my personal Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Eric J. Odom FB, like Facebook. And you know, I've actually I wanted to do it sooner, but I'm not a professional at all by any stretch in using this type of technology, all the microphones and editing and all that good stuff, which is probably why you're hearing some hum. There's a air conditioner unit, or actually a climate control unit here in my office, and being a liberal green city, they like to remove my ability to control that unit, so the whole building is basically climate controlled by one computer system. So you're going to hear some hums until I figure that out. And, you know, there's some things I need to work on, but I'm excited. I mean, you know, people started asking me about mid-November to do a podcast, and we've talked about it at Liberty News for quite some time. We've tinkered with some podcasts. We've worked with Willie Lawson occasionally to do a blog talk radio show, which, you know, there's challenges with that, and we certainly had some of those challenges, and didn't work out with Blog Talk Radio, but I think this might work. I'm going to match it both, you know, we'll do the traditional podcast route into iTunes and various other podcast marketing sites out there, or hosting sites, and also I'm going to match it into a YouTube video once the show is complete and uploaded. So here it is. You know, I'm not sure how it's going to unfold over the next couple of weeks, but I'm excited to do it. I love discussing the news. LibertyNews.com is growing tremendously. We're certainly not a drudge or, you know, a blaze by any stretch in terms of traffic, but, you know, we're at 3 million page views a month now, plus, which is pretty good. We've got no big media funding. We've got, you know, we've crawled and battled and fought our way to get to where we are, just through true grassroots marketing and promotion of our content. And our readers are very thrilled with what they see. And you know, we've got over 80,000 subscribers to the Liberty News email report. And it's exciting. So I'm very happy and excited to be able to do a podcast. I plan on doing this a couple times a week. Not going to commit to certain days and not going to commit to a certain number per week because the schedule is just so hectic and there's so many things going on. But I certainly want to do this at least a couple times a week, where I can take a look at the headlines and just bring you a quick podcast, put it out to my Facebook page, post it up on Liberty News, and see if we can get some discussion around it. So here it is, the very first Liberty News podcast, LibertyNews.com here in Chicago, Illinois. It is January 2nd. It's Friday. I know that folks are just now getting back into their offices today, or a lot of people aren't actually. In fact, Grassfire's offices are still closed until Monday. Liberty News' offices were owned by Grassfire, of course. So also you're probably going to hear a siren now and then, being that Jackson and Clark are right downstairs. It's one of the busiest intersections in downtown Chicago. So you will hear sirens for as long as I'm doing this podcast. There's nothing I can do about that. It's just the city life. So getting to the news, I'm not really going to get into a whole lot of it today. This is just an introduction post, or an introduction podcast, rather, to say hello, to introduce or announce the podcast. Get it posted up on Liberty News and Patriot Action Network. But I did want to talk about a couple topics that have piqued my interest this morning. And hopefully you'll agree that there's plenty of reasons to be outraged and upset at John Boehner and Republicans, Mitch McConnell and Republicans in the Senate, of course, Boehner with the Republicans in the House, and that the Cromney bus betrayal, that we're all very familiar with now, is such a gross and blatant knife to the back of conservatism, of the liberty movement, and a Republican base, and independents, and really everyone in America. I think most folks still haven't quite grasped what happened in the Crowley bus, and how much money is being spent, and how much pork was included. It literally, if you really kind of start diving into the details of it, you would think that this would be a big spending, big government, liberal spending bill put forward through a Nancy Pelosi controlled House. So it's mind-boggling. It's staggering to look at what John Boehner had been working on clearly long before the election to get this through. There's just no way possible that the election ended and then John Boehner sat down with a group of legislative aides and attorneys and came up with this bill. I mean, this was months in the making, which basically tells you that Boehner was lying throughout his campaign. He was lying to the caucus, the GOP caucus that has supported him and may support him here in a few days to continue being their quote-unquote leader, if you want to call it that. And it's a disgusting betrayal of a spending bill. And it's outrageous. And one of the big headlines that is, it's not a big headline today. I mean, it's not breaking news today, but it's certainly been discussed over the last week and a half, and hasn't gotten a lot of attention in mainstream media just because of the nature of the holidays and the news cycle. Is what Obama's executive amnesty does, which was actually not an executive order. It was not an executive order signed, so I'm still unsure as to how this thing's taking hold. But if we just look at this one piece, the executive amnesty and its price tag and how John Boehner funded it and made it possible. See, this is just a small piece of the betrayal, is the executive amnesty. There was so much more involved. You know, we could get into Obamacare, we could get into all the pork, the spending, the kickbacks. If even outgoing Congressman, former member of the leadership team, Eric Cantor, got a kickback. And he's not even in Congress anymore. I mean, so this thing is just, it's really ugly. But I want to talk about the executive amnesty piece because basically as of, probably a couple days before Christmas, several news outlets have broken the story about this facility that Barack Obama is setting up, for the Obama administration is setting up to house the new bureaucracy, the new federal beast of a federal employee machine that is put in place specifically to implement and manage Obama's executive amnesty order, or executive amnesty statement. I'm not sure exactly what we call it, but the facility, it comes at a price tag of $7.8 million a year to lease this office space building in Crystal City, Virginia, which is right across the river there from District of Columbia. $7.8 million just for the office space. Now, I know when you're talking about trillions and billions of dollars, $7.8 million, and especially the liberal, the left is, $7.8 million, that's meaningless. That doesn't mean anything. Well, I can tell you that a lot of our readers view $7.80 as a big deal in this economy, in Obama's economy. So $7.8 million is astronomical. And they're just pissing it into the wind for office space for something that's not even legal, in my view, which is Obama's executive amnesty. And actually, Boehner and many Republicans have even stated that Obama's executive amnesty is not legal. Yet they're now going to spend $7.8 million of our money, our dollars, just to lease this office space for a year. Now, what's going in this office space? 1,000 new federal employees at a price tag of $40 million a year in salaries. Think about that. 1,000 new federal employees at $40 million a year in salaries. Now, that's a good-sized company if you were to look at it from a perspective of the private sector. 1,000 employees at $40 million a year in salaries. Could you imagine a small city, having a city council meeting because there's a new company that wants to come in, set up 1,000 new jobs and spend $40 million a year in salaries, $40 million a year pumped into their local economy? That's staggering. $40 million a year in salaries, 1,000 new employees, and a $7.8 million a year office space in Crystal City, Virginia, just to manage and implement Obama's illegal executive amnesty. This is what Boehner Republicans in the House and the Senate just paid for. They didn't put up a fight. They didn't say, well, we don't think we should have this new bureaucracy. We don't agree with the executive amnesty, so we're going to take this out and see if we can pass it that way and make Obama, basically go in and kill the bill, veto it. They didn't put up a fight at all. It literally wasn't. They didn't push back. It's just, this is what it is. We're going to pass this. We're going to pay for it. Yes, during the campaign cycle, we said, just knocked over my water bottle there. Yeah, so they say while we were campaigning, we said that executive amnesty was illegal. But now the campaign's over, so we don't want to get into a fight with Obama before Christmas. We're just going to give him everything he wants, including 1,000 new federal employees at a price tag of $40 million a year in a new office facility that costs $7.8 million a year to lease. They're renting it at over $500,000 a month just to implement and manage Obama's executive amnesty. It's staggering what John Boehner did. And this piece here, this $48 million a year, $40 million for the salaries and almost $8 million for the office space, it's just a small part. I mean, this was almost 1,800 pages of spending and nonsense and growth of government with virtually no cuts, giving Obama his key legislative piece in Obamacare and giving Obama full funding for his executive amnesty. This is John Boehner, Republican from Ohio, who pushed this through, who allegedly lied to at least one member of the Republican caucus to get him to help get it through. And he literally couldn't care less what the people who had just trusted him with their vote and their donor dollars wanted. Literally could not care less. And, we're a few days out from many new members of Congress being sworn in. We're a few days out from a confirmation vote for Speaker of the House. And I got to tell you, what John Boehner and any Republican who voted with him for that bill did is outrageous and unforgivable. Now, there may be some good people who voted for it, and it may be, authentically good people. But good people make bad decisions when in positions of power. And personally, I am not a fan at all of ever supporting any member of Congress who voted for this, because you could say 6 months down the road or a year down the road, well, we're voting with you 90% of the time. The other 10% you may not like it, but here's our reasons for doing it. Okay, and in many cases when they do that, and they do that every cycle, they come back and say, I really regretted that vote. It's like Senator Mark Kirk in Illinois with cap and trade, which was, it was one of his most damning votes, and he paid for that dearly in some of those town hall events, and it gave him headache for years. And the way he tried to put it to sleep was to come back and say, that's one of the votes that I regret the most. Okay, but you still cast the vote. So it's not a matter of you asking for forgiveness. It's a matter of you realizing after the fact that you made the wrong decision. What matters is that you made that decision, a decision that could cripple or sink or bankrupt or kill off the United States of America. See, we the people don't take this as lightly as people in Congress, apparently. They think that the whole ship's just going to keep charging on, even though they know full well that it's taking on water. They think that somehow the thing is just going to keep moving. And we're all looking at here saying, look, the water line is up at the edge of the ship. It's at the handrails. This thing's going down. So you can't just say, well, yeah, I punched another hole in the bottom of the ship and I regret it. And that was a bad decision. And I hope to be able to represent you and make better decisions in the future. The fact is, you punched a hole in the bottom of the ship. And therefore, it's sinking faster and faster and faster. So in the coming days, I really hope that readers of Liberty News, members of patriotaction.net, friends and followers on Facebook really consider reaching out to their members of Congress before this vote happens, especially those who cast a vote for this, because in 2016, I believe there's going to be hell to pay. I think, speaking personally, like I said, I will not vote or donate to a single member or support or say anything supportive during the campaign cycle of any member who voted for this, period. Which is pretty much every Republican member of the Illinois Federal House Caucus. All of them. Almost every one of them. I think maybe Mike Boss didn't. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up. But the rest of them did. Shimkus, Davis, all of them. Adam Kinzinger, every single one of them betrayed the voters. They went through the whole campaign cycle saying, yes, Obama did something illegal. This amnesty thing is not the way government works. He's bypassing Congress. But, we're going to cast a vote and fund it. We're going to pay for it. We're going to hire 1,000 new federal employees in this piss-poor economy and pay them $40 million a year in salaries and house them in a $7.8 million a year office space so that they can implement what we believe is Obama's illegal executive amnesty. That's what Republicans did under the leadership, or lack thereof, of John Boehner. So think about this, folks. If Republicans confirm John Boehner as their Speaker of House, they are basically blessing what he did after the election in the omnibus. They are approving and confirming their support for Obama's executive amnesty and the funding of Obamacare and the rest of the fat pork big government spending in Boehner's omnibus. That's what you're going to see. And it's going to be interesting to see what these new elected Republicans do. I suspect some of them are going to go along with that. I hope there's a coup brewing. I'm hearing some rumors out there that there may be a coup brewing, but I suspect they're going to, their first act is not going to be to start a war in the GOP. Their first act is to want to get to some sort of business and just get that over with and in the past as quick as possible. But I'm telling you, it's not that simple. Those of you who just got elected as members of Congress for the first time going into 2015, we're done. We're finished with this crap. Enough is enough. If your first act, once you're actually sworn in as a congressman or congresswoman, if your first act is to give John Boehner's betrayal of the nation your thumbs up, then we know everything we need to know about you. And it doesn't matter what you do over the next year and a half, or 2 years. It doesn't matter what you say about that decision down the road. You made that decision as your first act in Congress to say, Boehner did fund executive amnesty, these $40 million a year in new salaries, the $7.8 million for this new office space, Obamacare, and I'm going to go ahead and give him my support to remain Speaker of the House. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And that's what we have coming down the pipes here in a few days. So, I have no more words. I just hope that Americans remember this, because enough is enough. Enough is enough. With Republicans like John Boehner, who needs Democrats? So I don't know about you out there who are listening to this. If you're on a train or driving down the road or sitting at your desk having a cup of coffee, I can't speak for you, but I can speak for myself. I'm done. I'm done with this. Too many times, far too often have I said, well, this is the lesser of the two evils, so I'm going to put my support here. No, never again, because it does absolutely no good. And those of you who say, okay, well, if we're just going to let Democrats have it, then they're just going to grow government and spend more money. Well, what do you think Boehner's doing? Okay, having 5 holes in the bottom of the ship instead of 10 holes in the bottom of the ship doesn't keep the ship from sinking. So don't buy into this endorsement of preferring 5 holes in the bottom of the ship versus 10 holes in the bottom of the ship. A hole is a hole, and the ship is sinking. And we're supporting the guys punching the holes in the wood or in the steel or whatever the ship's made of. So think about it, folks. When you see patriots running around Facebook saying enough is enough, get ready for third party, or look, I'm not endorsing third party. I'm not endorsing the Republican Party. I'm not endorsing Democrats, but I am endorsing the notion that we stop looking at Republicans and Democrats as the two options, with Republicans being the answer to do less damage than Democrats. Because again, if the ship sinks, the ship sinks. And both of those parties are knocking holes in the bottom. Enough is enough. So that would be my thought on the vote for Speaker of the House that's coming up, and John Boehner's gross betrayal of the voters, literally days after Ohio voters elected him. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable. $40 million a year in new salaries in a time when Republicans were so well positioned to cut government, to cut the size, to cut the scope, to cut the spending, and they couldn't even accomplish that. So that's pretty much all I'm going to cover today. Just, a little bit of a call to action. Reach out to your member, your representative. Let them know if you agree with what I just said. Convey that message. Let them know that you're done. When they come knocking on your door asking for $10 a year from now, no, not going to happen. Not going to happen. If they vote to confirm Boehner, it's done. Make sure they know that loud and clear. And if you know other people who feel the same, get their names, get their phone numbers, and give those names and phone numbers to your representative. And have them call the representative as well. But make sure that they know that you're not alone. And don't just pound your chest and say, well, I know 5 people who agree with me. Give the names. Don't, make the threat legitimate. Because enough is enough. A couple other things I want to throw out there. Again, this is the Liberty News podcast with libertynews.com, which is owned by grassfire.com. Our network of websites includes readychimp.com, 2aguide.com, realamericannews.com, and also patriotaction.net, which is it's a fantastic alternative to Facebook. We're organizing in all 50 states. We have over 94,000 members. So I highly recommend you become a part of patriotaction.net. It's a great social network. There's a lot of really good people there and some good things happening. We've got a meeting coming up. It's a regional meeting that's going to be happening in Fort Wayne, Indiana in February. Check that out. It's on the website, patriotaction.net. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening to us through the iTunes podcast, if you go to libertynews.com, there's a nice big red button over on the right side to the YouTube channel. That's where some of these will be posted as well. We're now at, I think, almost 4,000 subscribers on YouTube, and have just started heating that channel up. So there's a lot of good, exciting things happening there. Make sure you go to libertynews.com and click the subscribe button at the top to get into the Liberty News Report email. Like I said earlier, there's over 80,000 subscribers. And share this podcast. I'm very much looking forward to it. This is the first one, January 2nd, 2015. Very much looking forward to a year of discussing the topics with you and getting a little bit more of my voice out there on some of the issues. And thank you so much for listening. I'm Eric Odom. This is the Liberty News Podcast out of Chicago, Illinois with libertynews.com. Happy New Year, everyone. Thanks.